The Istanbul Cipher. Chapter 1. The minute the cabin door opened, a wave of warm, damp air hit me in the face like an old memory. Not unpleasant, just familiar in the way certain cities are. Cities that remember your footsteps long after you've left. I stepped into the jet bridge with a creak in my knees and a crick in my neck. 55 is too damn old for overnight flights in economy. Outside passport control, I fished my weathered field book from the inside pocket of my blazer. The leather was soft from years of use. I thumbed through pages of scribbles and transit stamps, Seoul, Rabat, Oaxaca, Prague, until I found the heading I'd jotted 2 weeks ago in Abu Dhabi. Istanbul, Youth Tech Partnership, Pilot Program/Heritage Overlay. Beneath it, potential landmine. Trust the kids. Don't get in their way. I stepped through the arrivals gate and scanned the crowd. Dozens of faces, some bleary with jet lag, others taut with reunion. Then I saw it. A warped cardboard sign with Merritt scrawled in purple Sharpie, held high above the head of a tall girl with a cobalt blue scarf trailing from her shoulder bag. She grinned. Zack Merritt? I nodded, and she launched straight in. I'm Leyla. This, she tugged a reluctant boy forward, is Emre. We're your welcoming committee. Also your ride, your interns, and probably your best chance at making this thing work. Emre gave a stiff wave and immediately looked away. Headphones hung from his collar, tangled like they'd seen war. Istanbul, Leyla continued, is a mess. But it's our mess. And we're going to save it. Through augmented reality. You're going to love it. She said it like a promise. Or a dare. I adjusted the strap on my satchel and followed them toward the curb. A seagull shrieked above us as the first call to prayer spiraled into the morning sky. Here we go again, I thought. Another city, another team, another gamble. But beneath the fatigue, something stirred. Not hope exactly, more like curiosity's first twitch. The cab smelled like mint gum and gasoline. Leyla talked fast in the front seat, rattling off bullet points like she was pitching a startup, not a student project. 4 primary sites already mapped, each with historical overlays tied to QR triggers. We coded it all in Unity, though Emre had opinions. She shot him a look. He always has opinions. From my place in the back seat, I caught Emre's grimace in the rearview mirror. It's not just coding. The point is precision. You can't have a Sufi school hovering 3 meters off the actual street. Leyla turned halfway toward me, half smiling. He's a purist. I'm not a purist. I'm accurate. Their rhythm reminded me of kids I used to teach, sharp, passionate, competitive without being cruel. That rare chemistry. Outside, Istanbul spun past in jumbled layers. A skyline pierced by minarets, laundry flapping between high rises, billboards for crypto apps beside rusted tea carts, the old world and the new elbowing each other for sidewalk space. I flipped open my field book and scribbled Istanbul, a palimpsest written in wireless signals and prayer. Leyla turned back. You take a lot of notes. It's how I keep up. Keep up or keep out? She asked, teasing but watching closely. Emre broke in. You used to teach, right? Tech stuff? I nodded. 24 years, middle school, mostly game design and robotics. Then I got out. Burned out? Emre asked. Graduated, I said, meeting his eyes. But yeah, maybe. A beat passed. Then Emre looked out the window and pulled his hoodie tighter. I noted the fingers twitching in his lap, like he wanted to be anywhere else. There's something under the surface there. Maybe pressure, maybe fear. I knew that twitch. The driver veered suddenly to avoid a honking dolmush. I grabbed the door handle and braced. Leyla didn't flinch. "We're almost there," she said. "Just wait until you see the rooftop." I looked out at the waking city and felt the first tug of investment. The kind that meant I was in deeper than I planned. And I'd only just arrived. The youth center was between a butcher shop and a boarded-up internet cafe in Karaköy. The kind of building Istanbul collects like loose change, cracked plaster, Ottoman bones, faded grandeur. Emre paid the cab, muttered something about budget cuts, and vanished inside. Leyla held the door for me. "Careful on the stairs. The railing's mostly decorative." 4 flights up, each narrower than the last, and the city cracked open around us. The rooftop terrace looked like an afterthought, built from scavenged furniture and borrowed rugs. It buzzed with low-tech energy. Folding tables, mismatched chairs, 3 power strips taped to the wall. A humming laptop fan whined like a mosquito. Ayla didn't look up when we arrived. She had maps spread out, color-coded and curling at the edges, weighed down with chipped ceramic mugs. Her phone balanced on a stack of Post-it pads. "You're late," she said flatly. Leyla rolled her eyes. "Ayla, this is Zack Merritt." Ayla offered a nod like she was granting me temporary visa access. "I do logistics. If you want miracles, talk to someone else." Just then, a girl in wide-legged jeans and a black sweater drifted in, cradling a worn paperback like it was breakable. She looked like she belonged in a library at midnight, not a tech startup on a roof. "This is Sibel," Leyla said, "our historian." Sibel gave a tiny wave and avoided my eyes. "Hi." Her voice barely reached the edge of the terrace. I took them in. Leyla the spark, Emre the core, Ayla the structure, Sibel the still water, and felt the strange gravity of teams again. The old rhythm. They didn't quite like each other, but they needed each other. I dropped my satchel by the wall, loosening the strap from my shoulder. 4 teenagers with Wi-Fi and a cause, I said, forcing a half smile. What could go wrong? Ayla snorted. Emre reappeared with a tray of tiny tulip glasses filled with tea. Someone handed me one. For a moment, we stood there. 5 people, 15 stories above the city, held together by sunlight, nerves, and ambition. Then Leyla opened her laptop. Leyla angled the laptop so I could see. The screen flickered under the glare, then steadied into the UI. Crisp lines over a satellite map, 4 blinking icons, each tagged with a tiny flame. Each flame marks a site that's been erased or ignored, she said, but not forgotten. Emre handed me an older phone, preloaded with their app, and gestured toward the alley below. Point it there, then drag the slider. I stepped closer to the terrace edge, lifted the screen, and hovered over the blocky apartment building across the street. My thumb nudged the slider. And suddenly, the present peeled away. A ghostly courtyard appeared, arched doorways, patterned tile, carved calligraphy over a vanished entrance. Layers of Ottoman architecture shimmered on top of modern concrete. My breath caught. A Sufi school, Sibel murmured behind me. It was demolished in '98. Now the building's a telecom office. I turned back to the group. You're reconstructing the past, digitally. Ayla nodded. With cross-verified sources and historical overlays. No TikTok-level nonsense. Leyla grinned. It's immersive conservation. If we can't save the sites, we can at least save the story. They were watching me now, waiting for my reaction. I kept my voice even. This is good. Really good. Leyla lit up. Emre looked half suspicious, like he couldn't decide if I was serious. Ayla started packing the maps back into a plastic folder, her motions too precise. And Sibel, still clutching her poetry book, whispered, "People forget. That's how history dies." I looked down at the screen again. The spectral architecture hovered, fragile and reverent. I'd seen students try 1,000 flashy things over the years. AR math scavenger hunts, digital tree planting games, even AI chatbots of dead authors. But this wasn't a gimmick. This was presence. I handed the phone back, slower than I needed to. "Okay," I said. "Show me the rest." Emre tapped the trackpad and the app zoomed out, revealing a web of vanished sites across the city. I felt something tighten in my chest. Curiosity, sure, but something else too. Hope, damn it. Then, the kids were bickering over UI fonts, and whether Emre's code for the AR fade transition felt too cinematic. I took the chance to drift toward the terrace railing, the chipped tiles warm underfoot. I pulled out my field book again, flipped past my notes on Bogota and Taipei, and found the fresh Istanbul spread. Scribbled a new line in the margin, too good to last? They always are. The wind off the Bosphorus carried a trace of sea and smoke. Salt and old diesel, maybe. It made me think of the first school I ever taught in, back in Vancouver. 8th graders building cardboard robots that barely moved. And me, young enough to believe failure was a badge of honor. I'm not that teacher anymore, I reminded myself. These kids aren't mine. This isn't my fight. Still, I couldn't shake the sense of something fragile forming. Not the app, though it was impressive, but the ecosystem around it. Leyla's boldness, Emre's restraint, Sibel's care, Ayla's quiet rage disguised as control. If any one of them cracked, the whole thing would tilt. I checked my watch. It was still set to Abu Dhabi time. Jessie would be making lunch by now, Coke Zero with a salad, and probably reading pretentious articles on the proper use of AI in schools written by someone who has never been in a classroom. Behind me, chairs scraped. "Mr. Merritt?" I turned. Leyla stood there, laptop hugged to her chest, the sunlight catching the edge of her cheekbone. "Do you think what we're doing matters?" The question landed sharp. I thought about all the pilot projects I'd seen implode. Bureaucrats who nodded in meetings and cut funding the next week. Administrators who smiled through gritted teeth. The foundation, always just outside the frame. And still, I thought, they're asking the right question. I gave her the smallest smile I could muster. "Let's find out." Her grin flashed for real this time. No sarcasm, no show. Just hope, raw and unguarded. Behind her, the others were still arguing. I heard Sibel say softly, "History wants to be remembered." I slipped my notebook back into my blazer and turned toward them. We stayed on the terrace long after the sun tilted west, the golden haze settling like a second skin over the rooftops. Below us, the streets of Karaköy came alive. Vendors shouting prices, car horns trading insults, gulls crying overhead like they'd lost something. The kids kept working, locked in flow. Emre reworked a location tag that was pinging wrong on the live map. Ayla adjusted the schedule for tomorrow's field scans with the precision of a NASA launch coordinator. Sibel curled into a corner, flipping between the poetry book and her notes, whispering lines to herself. Leyla sat beside me, legs tucked under her. "This city," she said, not looking at me. "It remembers everything. You just have to listen long enough." We were both quiet for a moment. Then the sound came, the call to prayer, rising across the rooftops like mist from stone. The muezzin's voice spilled from every direction, deep, plaintive, utterly unhurried. It wove into the chaos, overlaid it, transformed it. The teens didn't pause. They were used to it, I guessed. But I sat back, let the sound wash through me. I felt it settle in the spaces I'd ignored, the tightness behind my ribs, the ache in my shoulders. This city remembers everything. The words stayed with me. I pulled out my notebook and wrote them down, then drew a rough map of the streets I could see from the rooftop. Arrows, tags, tiny question marks. It looked like a puzzle half finished. Behind me, someone laughed. Light and real. Ayla, surprisingly. Then Leyla turned to me. "Mr. Merritt, we don't need you to fix us. Just help us not get crushed." I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I did. "I'll do my best." She nodded, satisfied. Then she grinned. "That's all we need." The gulls cried again. Somewhere, a tram bell rang. And from every direction, the ancient city kept speaking. The trick, I realized, was learning how to listen